Trick or treat, motherfucker. What's up? Anchorpete here, and I'm saying that because you know which Halloween movie me and Danny just watched. There's Danny over there, by the way. Mr. Dr. Zayas God. Danny, are you mad at me for making you have to watch Halloween Resurrection again?
No, because I didn't. I've seen it enough times to know just how much it sucks. I did though just rewatch Halloween H20, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with my reaction to that movie, having not seen it from beginning to end in a very long time. I was actually nervous going into it because I feel like Halloween H20 has like the kind of inverse of Halloween 3, where when you saw it 20 years ago, everybody loved it
Yeah.
because it was like the return of Jamie Lee Curtis and the end of Michael Myers. And I feel like in those last 20 years, whereas like everybody suddenly came around to loving H3, people have started to kind of retroactively shit on H2O.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, oh no, am I gonna hate this movie now?
Yeah.
That actually happened to me. Charlotte and I were rewatching I was watching the Friday the 13th series with Charlotte for the first time.
Okay.
And we watched Freddy vs. Jason. And I was like, oh my God, I hate this movie now. So I actually was like, oh no, am I going to hate H2O again? But I was like, no, I still really like H2O.
Yeah.
But yeah, Resurrection is dog shit. Like,
Danny and I, we've been doing the Halloween timelines, right? There's 5 of them altogether. And this one is part of its own little timeline, these 2 movies. There's, Halloween and then Halloween 2, 1978, and then 1981. And then 20 years later, we have H2O. And then the sequel in 2002, Halloween Resurrection. And I think, Danny, that like, I actually did see H2O in the theaters when it came out. That was like a big time, because in 1998, we're around the same age. I was about 16, I think, when this came out. And Scream had come out, I think, 2 years prior in 1996. There was a lot of buzz about horror in general, and the horror movies felt very formulaic at that point. They all felt like they were trying to be like Scream, be like I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I feel like H2O is kind of like that. It matches those movies in a lot of ways.
I was looking at the poster and I'm like, this poster looks so generic for late 90s horror.
Right.
And then I Googled like the I Know What You Did Last Summer poster.
Right.
And the Urban Legend poster. Right. And the Faculty poster, which also stars Josh Hartnett. And it's all the same poster. It's how many sexy teenagers can we fit on a movie poster that vaguely alludes to what the movie is about with the title.
Right.
And it's all so similar. And it's all, it's ironic. Kevin Williamson had a role in writing, I think, H2O.
Right.
And he was like the brainchild behind Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. And like all of those, a lot of those late 90s horror movies started to feel very generic.
Yes.
Especially by the end, like, because like Scream kind of set us off on this new style of slasher, like the kind of like the revamped slasher movie.
Right. And you're absolutely right about those posters. I even remember like Phantoms, like Dean Kuntz's Phantoms even has one of those.
That was another one.
Right.
Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, though.
Oh yeah, that movie, that's an underrated gem. For me, my opinion of H2O has actually changed since when I first watched it. Because when I watched it, I thought it was legitimately scary the first time around. I don't think I had seen a horror Michael Myers movie in its entirety until I saw H2O. I don't even think I saw the original Halloween. And so I thought it was actually very scary. There's one sequence in this movie that I remember when I saw it in the theater, I felt very stressed out. It's that sequence where there's the mom and the daughter, and they go to that rest stop, right? And I remember feeling like really tense at that moment. And I remember feeling tense in the beginning with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the nurse. And that nurse, that's that same nurse that was back for Halloween Kills, right?
Yeah. She's been in she's been in 4 Halloween movies. And what's funny is she was in this one. She was in the original part 2 and H2O, where of course her character dies. But those are all part of the same timeline. And then she's back in Halloween Kills. So
Yes.
she's died across 2 timelines. Like I think H2O stands up still. I really do.
Well, the problems that I have with it, right, is ultimately the way that Michael acts in this movie, and then also the
Yeah.
supporting cast, right? Josh Hartnett's pretty good, but obviously he's not at his like Josh Hartnett peak level yet. Michelle Williams is like you almost can't even recognize Michelle Williams in this role because she's kind of got like a nothing role. And then the two supporting friends, they're like the horniest characters in this whole franchise, right? And so I wasn't rooting for them or caring for them.
The one thing I'll say, it's funny because like in this movie, he basically has 2 moments in the movie where he kills people. It's that the opening scene where he kills Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the nurse,
Right.
and then you have to wait all the way to like those Josh Hartnett's friend and the friend's girlfriend who get killed at the university, and then that's really it. Like Adam Arkin gets killed at the end, like to like spur on the big final 15-minute like Michael versus Laurie scene.
Yeah.
But that's really all the killing in this movie. And it's funny, like you were saying, rewatching it, I think this might be the least scary of the Halloween movies. And I think you mentioned like the way Michael, I don't think I like the performance of
Yeah.
the actor who was Michael in this movie. I'm not a huge fan of the way he was played, and I'm not even sure if it's his fault because they used like 4 different masks in this movie and they seem to change from like literal scene to scene, and it's really distracting. Like
Yes.
once you've picked up on it, like probably the first time I saw it I didn't notice, but rewatching the movie 20 times over the last 20 years and watching 52 YouTube videos about the Halloween franchise and just knowing what to look for. Like there's the CGI mask. Like the mask at the very beginning is the mask from part 6, which I love. And then they just like dropped it for a new mask. And even
Oh.
my son walked in the room while I was watching it. My son is the king of walking into a room while you're watching a movie and having a 30-minute discussion with you about the movie while you're watching it.
Yeah.
And he stood there and he looked at the mask and he was like, that mask is weird. The eyes are too big. And I was like, yeah, they are. Like
Right.
the eyes are like this big in the movie.
Right. Right. And look, I agree with that. Like Michael, I like him best when it's just black where his eyes should be. And I like when they do a close up and you do see his eyes, but I like when they keep it very like it's only a few parts in the movie. You know, it's kind of like with Batman. A lot of times in the comics where you see Batman, he's got the white eyes, but every so often for like emotive purposes or to show shock or something, they'll show his pupils, right, or his eyes. And that's the way I like Michael too, where you just see his eyes a little bit. And there's that really great sequence where he's on one side of the door and Jamie Lee Curtis is on the other, and you see his eyes very clearly there. I think that's very effective there. But in general, I'm much more of a fan when it's just the 2 black holes there.
The things that I really almost love about this movie, where it lacks for me in scares and Michael performance, it makes up for in like the little things. Like I just love including Janet Leigh in the movie.
Yes.
Uh I love that. And like it's like the little nods to horror fans. Like she's standing in front of the car from Psycho.
Right.
Like she tells Laurie, allow me to be maternal for a moment. You're like, I get
Yeah.
that joke. I know what you're
Yes.
talking about. I actually really like Laurie's relationship or Carrie Tate's relationship with Will Brennan, Adam Arkin. I thought that was like an interesting thing, and I thought they played it very casual, and they had good chemistry together. And it like shows how much she's tried to move on, and like, you know, so there's a lot of stuff about the movie I like. And look, we're gonna get into Resurrection in a second, but the ending of this movie drew, and you saw it in theaters. I remember the crowd like giving like an all-time applause, F yeah, clapping when she cuts his damn head off, and it just goes straight to black. It's like, we're done. There's no epilogue, there's no nothing. It's like his head rolls, fade to black, end the Halloween series, done. I'm like, mic drop, it's over.
Yes.
And I'm like, they hit it. They it's such a great ending.
Yes.
And it helps erase what are probably more than a few little flaws in the movie, but it's just that, what a kick-ass moment.
Did you know the controversy about that ending and Jamie Lee Curtis?
Are you referring to like whether or not Resurrection had been planned in advance?
Right.
So I've heard conflicting stories. I know some people say it was always meant to happen, and that's why at the end he like goes like this. Here's my question. If they actually meant that to happen, they could have easily put another actor in the mask at the end of the movie. They could have made the eyes different to the viewer. So like, we're looking at it, it's the same guy. It's Chris Duran in the mask at the end, pinned to the ambulance. Put another guy in there with a different color of eyes, so that like we're left sitting there going, okay, it's over. Okay. And then, oh shit, like it makes the beginning of Resurrection make sense.
So we kind of talked about H2O. We can move on into Resurrection. And honestly, I feel like there's not a lot to say about Resurrection besides like just kind of making fun of it.
I feel like any good graces that movie had, like, I remember going to the movie theater to see it. I remember being excited to see it because it's a Halloween movie. And I remember literally 10 minutes into the movie, everyone in the theater being like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And basically being like, nah, fuck this movie. Like 10 minutes in. Like I've never seen a movie that like so blatantly turned its entire audience off faster. Like we're bringing, like she's on the box, like prominently, like she's advertised, and you're thinking like, okay, she's in the institution. She realizes what she did. Michael will go on a killing spree. She'll come out and we'll have another confrontation. Nope. 10 minutes in, and it's really bad. It's really stupid. Yeah. And then we get like the most 2002 movie where it's like, we're going to do a video stream. We're going to hire all the it people with Tyra Banks, who also is on the box. And you're like, oh, she's going to be a big part of this movie. No, not at all.
No.
It's like,
she makes a latte and dances around, a little bit.
Yeah. LL Cool J was in H2O as like a supporting character. He was kind of fun. Let's get another rapper to be the main protagonist of the movie and to have some of the greatest, worst line reads in the history of cinema.
Yeah. Oh, God. Dangertainment, man.
I feel like that movie was like, everyone will like it because we'll make like a Pulp Fiction reference. We'll have the main characters dress up as Pulp Fiction characters because that's what teenagers and like 20 somethings in 2002. And I'm just like, that's my favorite movie. Don't bring my favorite movie into this.
Yeah. What year did Pulp Fiction come out again? Was that 96?
94.
94. That's 8 years ago, and yeah. The one dude being Jules, man. Oh my god. With the little kick
how
in his
about the
hair.
character? How about the girl who's like the girl who's a feminist, and then the second that she's alone with the guy, she takes her top off, and
Oh my god.
I was like, "Who
That
are you? What is this like a reference to Elizabeth Berkley and Showgirls?" Like, you,
in Resurrection, I'll say one good thing about Resurrection. She looks really good in the institution. Like she looks like she looked like in 1978. Jamie Lee
yeah,
Curtis.
I mean, I thought the Michael Myers mask looked better in Resurrection than it did in H2O or parts 4 or 5. But there's so much dumb shit in this movie. I genuinely think this might be one of the worst sequels ever made, in the idea that it, think about like the legacy of this movie. H2O got almost universally positive reviews when it came out. Fans appreciated it because it was the return of Jamie Lee Curtis to the franchise after 20 years. Yeah, it's a flawed movie, but you got that epic conclusion to the Michael versus Laurie saga. Resurrection does two things. It shits on that great ending, completely upends it. So the best part of H2O is now ruined because of Resurrection's existence.
Right.
And then it was so bad that it basically ended another timeline. They were like, well, this movie was so bad that we're gonna give it to Rob Zombie. Like the franchise like went dormant for 5 more years, and then they let Rob Zombie, of all people, like a guy who back then I think he had only made House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects.
That's right.
So he was basically 1 for 2 on good movies. and his style, like the biggest problem people have with Rob Zombie's movies in general is just his style. And the thing that people hate about the Rob Zombie Halloween movies is that it's his style, with his, hillbilly cursing and, and all of that nastiness thrown in.
Yeah.
But, if you can separate that, that's where I think like rewatching Halloween 2, his Halloween 2 for the first time in a million years, and being able to separate it from like, oh, this sucks because it's not a Halloween movie. No, it's actually pretty good for a Rob Zombie Halloween movie.
Right.
So Resurrection, it ruins the movie that came before it, and it basically destroys the franchise at that point. It like killed the franchise.
Yeah.
So I don't even.
It's the Batman and Robin of the
that's a perfect comparison, because yes, did Batman and Robin kill the character of Batman? No, but it went dead for a long time. Right. And it after, what was that, 1996? Batman and Robin, something like that, 97 maybe. Like what? Yeah. What was it? A decade before The Dark Knight came out? I mean, Batman Begins.
Right. Yeah, Batman Begins, I think, is 2005 or 2006, and then I know that the Dark Knight's 2008.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's what Halloween Resurrection is. It's the Batman and Robin of this franchise, 100%.
Danny, that brings us up to the money shot, man. The most important thing of this whole discussion, because we are talking about all these Halloween timelines, all 5 of them. The way that I look at it, each of them has a really good entry, and each of them has a really horrible entry, right? So let's just review what the 5 are real quick, and then you can tell me which one's your favorite and why. Okay? So essentially the 5, as far as I know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the 5 would be the first one, which is like the sequel timeline, which has Halloween 1, 2, and then 4, 5, and 6. right? Then there is the
That's the
anthology.
that's also sometimes called like the Jamie Lloyd timeline because 3 of the movies follow her. Yeah,
Right. So there's that one. Then there's like the anthology timeline, which is just Halloween 3 by itself.
off
Then
to the
there
side.
is the H2O timeline, or the 20-year timeline, where it's, Halloween 1, 2, H2O, and Resurrection. Then there is the Halloween Kills timeline, which is, Halloween, then Halloween 2018, and then Halloween Kills, right? So did I name all five? I think I did. Oh no, the Rob
And then the
Zombie.
Rob Zombies.
Right. So out of those, Danny, which one is your favorite?
I'm not even sure. Because like you said, every one of those timelines has movies that I love, but then there's usually a movie that I genuinely hate in there. Like if it was Halloween, the original Halloween and Halloween 2, and then H2O, there it is. That's my favorite timeline. Those 3, the Laurie Strode versus Michael Myers timeline, love it. But then Resurrection's in there, and I can't pick that timeline because I never want to watch Resurrection again.
Right.
That's somebody commented on my ranking that I posted on Facebook and basically said, look, as long as the original is on the top and Resurrection is at the bottom, the rest of the list doesn't matter. And I said, yeah,
Right.
that I accept that. Like that makes sense.
Right.
I love, I mean, again, it goes without saying the original movie, but I really did like Halloween 2018, and I would have loved it if that was the end. But Halloween Kills came out, and it pardon the pun, but it killed me how much I didn't love that movie. I liked parts of it,
Right.
but it's just so dumb. And
Yeah.
and now I have to like worry about Halloween Ends, and I'm like, there's a 4-year time jump. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Like I'm already starting to get like Halloween Resurrection vibes about that movie. I hope I'm proven wrong because I know that the people involved in this have the talent to do good stuff. So I'm hoping like Halloween Ends is so good that it fixes the problems that I have with Kills,
Right.
and I can just accept that as a trilogy to go along with the original. I don't like Halloween's 4 and 5 very much. I have a very soft spot for part 6. In my own world, I like to live in a world where there was a Halloween and a Halloween 2, and Michael Myers and Loomis blew up together in that hospital, and that was the end. But unfortunately, we don't live there. So you know what? I'm going to take the cheap way out, and I'm going to say my favorite timeline is Halloween 3 on its own. Done. Because that way, it's one movie. I know I love the movie, and I don't have to watch any movies that I don't like.
All right. Loophole it is. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to contradict you a little bit. I think that my favorite is 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. Now, I know that like 4, 5, and 6 are kind of lame. I know 5 is really bad, but I actually like Jamie Lloyd. And it's really stupid that she can't talk in the 5th one. But I just like Danielle Harris a lot. I think I have like a little bit of a crush on her. Now,
Oh yeah,
I said this in my other video too. It's like I don't have a crush on the little girl. Like obviously she's gotten older. Yeah.
That's like when people ask me like who was my first like movie crush, and I'm like Natalie Portman in The Professional, and they're like, but she was an 11-year-old. I'm like, I was 11 years old.
Right.
39-year-old Danny doesn't have a crush on 11-year-old Natalie Portman. 11-year-old Danny had a crush on 11-year-old Natalie Portman.
Dude, thank you for your support, making me not look like a pedophile. I appreciate it. Working in education. But I was going to say that like that series is bad, but I feel like that's kind of a thing that goes along with slashers, is that they just get more and more ridiculous. I like that, like building upon the mythology and it not making sense. I know a lot of people look at that as a flaw, and it is, but I like that it's like sort of like, oh, we wrote ourselves into a corner. What do we do next? And they just come up with more and more ludicrous ideas on what to do next.
That's part of why I do like part 6, because part 6 was put into a impossible situation because they literally started shooting part 5 without an ending. And then they basically never had an ending.
Yeah.
It the ending of that movie makes no sense, and it doesn't, like, the filmmakers behind part 6 were like, what do we, I don't know, like, what the frick do we even do with this?
Right.
And they took it in a very bizarre direction. But Jason Lives was part 6, and they decided, let's turn Jason into the Frankenstein zombie monster. And it worked great in that movie, and people love zombie Jason. So I don't mind them trying something new. Like, that's, again, one of the things that I learned to appreciate about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is, if you're going to like remake a movie, or not even Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, but like his first movie, the Rob Zombie's Halloween, as much as that first half of that movie is weird and full of just awful Rob Zombie hillbilly dialogue, if you're going to remake a classic movie, do something original with it. And
Yes.
He went in a very weird, interesting, intriguing direction. And then the second half of the movie is just a carbon copy remake of the original movie. And it's just like, huh?
Yeah. The series in itself, no matter which timeline you pick, it's like you have a very stark, simple, basic idea as the spark. And everyone says the first movie is fantastic. It's the beginning of all these timelines, and everyone loves the first movie because it's so simple. And then it's like, well, how do we build upon it? And it just becomes more ridiculous in any version. And I think that you see there's two things. You see like studio interference, like the producers and stuff wanting a certain thing affecting the vision, and then you have people that are creative trying to like spin something out of nothing, and they're just kind of collide, and more often than not you get kind of duds. But in general, it's just kind of fun to watch, and I have always ranked Michael as low. I always like, Freddy and Jason more, and Ghostface. Actually, I really love Scream a lot. But watching the series now like this, I think I'm putting Michael above the other two, at least Freddy and Jason.
I was never a Jason guy, because Jason was just an imitation of Michael, silent stalker. Michael, for me, was always easily the scariest. And I'll be honest, the original Halloween to this day scares me. As ridiculous as it is, as an almost 40-year-old man, the only horror movie character that I ever actually have nightmares of is Michael Myers. And I think it goes back to, and you said it when you and Sherry reviewed the original movie, you guys talked about the scene where the mask just comes out of the darkness. And that scene for me, like you said, like you turn into any dark corner and you can envision just the white mask, especially the mask from the first movie. There's just something terrifying about that. And like how simple the first movie was. There's no explanation aside from Loomis's exposition dialogue about what he thinks Michael is. The movie ends with just if they never made a sequel ever.
Right.
How scary would that be even now? Thinking to yourself as a horror movie fan, holy shit, like that guy can still be out there.
Right.
Like, and then you look out the window like Laurie and see,
Yeah.
So, I mean, the mythology is fun, but I feel like a lot of people, especially watching Kills, like Halloween Kills is trying at the same time to like deconstruct the mythology and create their own at the same time. And it just, it gets twisted. And take me back to a simpler time where
Yep.
you know, John Carpenter. I actually watched on there's like a little bonus documentary feature on the DVD of H2O, and John Carpenter's admitted in the interview where he's like, I was stuck writing the Halloween 2 script, and I had a 6-pack of beer and I was smoking, and I just said, what if Lori is his sister? Okay, forget it. Let's go. She's his sister now. And
Right.
he just like powered through the script to finish it, and that was it. And like they wanted that to be it. Like that was it. Blow up and but yeah, sometimes you get fun sequels and sometimes you get Halloween Resurrection.
Oh man, look at this guy tying it all up in a bow right there. Very nice. You're like Michael setting up a decoration somewhere after you've killed it.
Yeah.
But that's a good way to kind of wrap up this whole discussion and to just wrap up this whole month. I have gone through watching almost 12 movies to do this with you, sir. We will always have more content to cover on the Lassercast. I think that Danny and Charlotte are going to start reviewing the Evil Dead TV series. And there's always stuff on Shudder for us to talk about too. So
yeah, we're one episode away from finishing season 1 of Ash vs. Evil Dead, and then we're gonna do a season 1 review.
Yeah, so we always got horror content for you on the Lassercast. If you have not liked and subscribed, what are you waiting for? So we, Danny, Dr. Zayas, God, and I will see you guys next time.